World Series Game 1. Welcome back to the First Sip. It's Friday. It's the World Series kickoff today. But before we talk about that, something very coordinated is happening in Canada right now. The mainstream media, particularly the liberal-friendly outlets like CTV and CBC and Global and the Toronto Star, all of them, they've all gone into overdrive with what they think is a brand new narrative that Pierre Poilievre is reckless and that his comments about the RCMP were dangerous and that his leadership is rooted in grievance. And now, in the last couple of days, now we get these unnamed conservative insiders who are supposedly worried about his tone. Do you think conservative insiders are truly willing to talk to the liberal media? I highly doubt that. And if it sounds familiar, it should, because this is exactly what a smear campaign looks like when it's done by professionals. You can practically see the fingerprints of the liberal war room all over this. And I want you to share this video with all of your friends and family who don't understand what smear campaigns look like, because we have seen this movie before. Paint the opposition as unstable, extreme, or too angry. Anything to distract from the fact that the Liberals are once again on the brink of financial and political collapse. Who's surprised? With the November 4th budget looming, a budget so reckless it might actually topple the entire government right off the start, the media is doing what it always does in these situations when their team is in trouble. They turn their cameras away from the actual problems in this country and start hunting for a villain. And this week, as has been many weeks over the last 2 years, their villain of choice is Pierre Poilievre. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things, the First Sip. I'm Chris Baker. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, join the conversation down below. Let's start with what's actually being said, which is Poilievre made two things very clear recently. He said the RCMP has failed Canadians by refusing to hold Justin Trudeau accountable for the mountain of scandals that would have landed any normal politician in jail. He's explained this 100 times, and he said Canadians have lost faith in institutions that used to be untouchable. The RCMP, the CBC, even Parliament itself, because those institutions no longer act independently. Now, whether you agree with his tone or not is not the argument here. That's an opinion grounded in reality, regardless of who spoke it. The SNC-Lavalin affair and the We Charity fiasco and the slush fund and the Aga Khan trip, the interference scandals, all of it, the pattern of liberal impunity is undeniable. Trudeau has faced more ethics violations than any prime minister in Canadian history, yet not one criminal charge. It's all he was talking about. If that doesn't raise legitimate questions about how justice works in the country of Canada, what exactly would? But rather than debate the facts about what he said, the media chose to instead attack the messenger for his negative messaging. And how could he say that about the RCMP? Suddenly, Pierre Poilievre is being described as reckless and unhinged, and even Trump-like yet again, for daring to say what millions of Canadians have been thinking for months and years. And here's where it gets really sneaky in all of this. Articles start popping up with quotes from so-called conservative insiders that are getting restless with Pierre Poilievre, but none of them are ever named. None of them are ever speaking out publicly on social media or anywhere for that matter. None of them are on record. They just magically exist to reinforce the narrative that Pierre Poilievre's own party doesn't support him, except you have no proof and you aren't willing to provide it. That's the first sign of a smear campaign, anonymous sourcing. So let's talk about smear campaigns. When you see a journalist quoting sources close to or party members who spoke on background, it's usually code for we needed someone to say this, and no one credible would go on record to say it. It's how propaganda hides behind real journalism. And the second sign is, of course, timing. Smear campaigns always start right before a critical event, whether that's an election, a leadership review, both, or in this case, a high-stakes budget that could trigger a national vote. This timing is not random. Not at all. It's very strategic. The Liberals know that if this budget fails, we're going to the polls. And without Donald Trump in office, well, he's in office, but without him being the big boogeyman that they used to portray him as, they need to make Canadians afraid of somebody else. So they're trying to make you afraid of Pierre Poilievre and his, again, wild speech. They're trying to make him out as the new Trump enemy. The big orange man to the south is now north. Canadians know better than this, though. We're really starting to learn. And if you haven't started to learn, then learn from this show today. Because if we actually walk through how to spot a smear campaign, which is really what this topic is, the next time this happens, and it will, you'll at least know exactly what you're looking for, especially if we are about to head into another election. So step one, look at the framing of what's being said. When an article starts with emotional adjectives, things like reckless, divisive, angry, populist, those types of words, before even presenting a single fact, that's called propaganda. Journalism starts with facts and lets you form an opinion. Propaganda starts with an opinion and sprinkles in selective facts. That's the difference, to make it look legitimate. Now, step two. And you might have to rewind that one to read it again or hear it again, but check the sourcing for step two. If it's anonymous, if it's vague or repetitive across multiple outlets, it's probably coordinated. You'll often see identical phrases like senior conservative source, for example, or close to the party leader. Sources close to the party leader say, appearing in different articles across different networks within days. And that's not coincidence. None of it is. That's message discipline, the hallmark of a communications war beginning. Now, step three, you need to watch for things that trigger you emotionally or are intended to. We call them, of course, emotional triggers, and propaganda uses emotion to override your logic. Fear, outrage, disgust, those are the tools of manipulation the media will use. The media knows that if they can make you feel angry or afraid, a la Donald Trump, you'll stop analyzing and start reacting. So when every headline suddenly sounds alarmist, you should start asking yourself, who benefits from my reaction to this? That's a really great question. Step four, follow the money and the message. Most of Canada's major media outlets are funded by the same government they're supposed to hold accountable. CBC receives over $1 billion a year. CTV and the Toronto Star benefit from tax subsidies and federal ad contracts and aid during COVID. And that creates dependency on the government, and dependency kills objectivity. When the hand that feeds you is the same one you're supposed to be biting, you don't really bite that hard, right? Think about your dog. How often do they bite now? Because you feed them. So when you see multiple liberal-aligned outlets publishing near-identical talking points about Pierre Poilievre being reckless just days before a potentially election-triggering budget, you're not watching journalism. You're watching political engineering at work. It's not about informing the public at this point. It's about shaping public perception so you don't vote for him in the event of an election. It's about building a narrative that can be recycled for the next 6 months of campaign coverage if the campaign were to last that long. Poilievre can't be trusted, they say. Poilievre is dangerous, they say. Poilievre is too extreme for Canada, they say. But they don't back it up with anything, and they don't back it up with actual sources. It's designed to soften you up so that when the Liberals inevitably blow up the budget, when the election ends up being forced to happen, you'll already have that little seed of doubt in your mind about Pierre Poilievre. That's the hope. It's psychological warfare, and it's done through media repetition. And frankly, it's insulting. It's insulting to your intelligence and to mine because it assumes Canadians are stupid. It assumes we don't see the pattern here. It assumes we forgot that the exact same media once told us Trudeau was the great uniter, the feminist reformer, the climate crusader, which all ended up being lies, didn't it? Now, those same journalists who ignored scandal after scandal are suddenly deeply concerned about Pierre Poilievre's tone. Spare me. Where was the concern when, oh, I don't know, Trudeau was screaming fringe minority at Canadians who disagreed with him in the convoy or during COVID at all? Where was it when his government froze bank accounts, restricted free speech, and crushed protests? I don't remember that being a big issue for you, media. They weren't really worried then, and because their guy was in charge, they're not really worried now either. That's the definition of bias. And they were being supported financially, so don't bite the hand that feeds you. But here's the truth. Smear campaigns work only when people stop thinking for themselves. That's why they rely on repetition and fear. That's why every liberal aligned commentator is now parroting the same line about reckless rhetoric. Because if they can convince you that criticism of government corruption is somehow dangerous, then accountability itself becomes dangerous. So here we go. Once accountability is dangerous in this country, democracy is gone. Democracy is dead. That's the reality. So the next time that you see an article quoting anonymous conservative sources or warning that Pierre Poilievre is angry or Trumpian, stop and ask yourself a question. Is this about informing me, or is this about conditioning me? Because the information that's in there probably isn't even information at all. The smear campaign against Pierre Poilievre isn't about protecting our democracy. It's about protecting the establishment, because they know that if this budget collapses and an election is called, Canadians are going to remember exactly who's responsible for all this mess that we're in right now. And spoiler alert, it isn't Pierre Poilievre. Look, it's not journalism. It's propaganda. It's fear management. It's damage control for a collapsing government that doesn't even know what it's talking about anymore. Did we all see Mark Carney's supposed speech to the nation yesterday? His own supporters have no idea what he said. And that's why we need to start calling all of this crap about Poilievre out for what it is, which is propaganda. Because mark my words, in the next 2 weeks, you're going to see more of this. Even more sources suddenly coming forward but won't be named. More concerned conservatives suddenly coming forward that won't be named. More talk of reckless leadership, because the liberals know what's coming, or what could be coming at the very least. They know that when Canadians finally get a choice, they may be done this time. So stay alert. Read critically. Watch critically. Don't fall for the headlines. Look for proof, not performance, because propaganda only works if you stop questioning it. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. I'm Chris Baker. Don't forget to like, subscribe, join the comments down below. Are you seeing the propaganda and the push and the smear in all of this? Let's talk about it down below. Where else have you seen it? Are there other outlets that we're not thinking of here in the media? Let's call it out as a group. Let's catch it as a group. Let's point this out when it's happening, especially to those who do not understand what a smear campaign is or are constantly falling for them. Don't forget to share this video as education on how to spot them as well. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again, of course, this evening. We're going to go back a little bit earlier because I know you all want to spend your time watching Game 1 of the World Series. Totally get you. I'm right there with you. Go Jays, go. So what we're going to do is, instead of releasing the end of day episode, The Last Word, at 5 o'clock, we'll put it out for 3:30 this afternoon so that you can watch it early and then move on into the game. Let's go Blue Jays. We'll see you this evening.